Hi. Uh, would you like to introduce yourself and what year you graduated?
Yeah, my name is Nathan. I graduated last year, so 2023, and I was in Haggerty Robotics for 4 years, all 4 years of high school.
Very nice, very cool. Um, so how did you first hear about FIRST?
I first heard about FIRST when I was in middle school in sixth grade, because my brother was on a FIRST team, and I just kind of copied him, and I joined my middle school's FLL team, and I've been doing FIRST robotics ever since.
Okay, so what are some core memories that you made throughout your experience in FIRST?
Definitely some of my main core memories are going to competitions, such as being at Worlds, my junior year, going to Worlds, just hanging out with people, all of our teammates, meeting the other teams there, but also just some of the late nights in the room, working on the robot. I mean, that's what I did robotics for, was to work on the robot, and I really enjoyed that. Working in the innovation lab at UCF and all that. Um, was one of the highlights of high school.
So, what skills have you learned while being on a first team and that you still use today?
So obviously there's like the technical skills, CAD. I still use CAD on a daily basis today. Um, there's all those technical skills, but some of the more important skills that I've learned are the soft skills. So one of the really important ones is knowing how to figure things out on my own. So obviously in robotics, having it as a competition and not just as an assignment where you're just following directions, is really significant, because you kind of have to go find your own answers. You have to figure out how to use your resources, how to talk to people, find people who can help you, and to find the answer to your question. And so being able to sort of teach myself, and find answers and problem solve, um, better than people who didn't compete in first is one of the important things I learned. I think one of the other important soft skills that I've learned was just working with people. When you're working on a team of 10 to 12 people, um, it's you have to learn how to communicate effectively. You have to learn how to trust other people, and listen to their ideas and fight for their ideas as much as you would fight for your own. I'm sure all of you guys know this, but obviously a lot of the time you have to sacrifice what you want, or what you made. If you made a part of the robot that doesn't work, you have to be okay to let it go and do what's best for the team, because at the end of the day, you sort of learn that everybody is working towards the same goal. So really learning how to work together under pressure, and give up, uh, sacrifice yourself for the sake of the team and the sake of the goal, is one really important thing that I learned.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds really good to hear. So how are you still involved with like FIRST after like high school?
I'm not super involved. I don't like volunteer at the competitions or anything, but I definitely have seen a couple of you in the innovation lab. Um, I've looked at some of your CAD and been like, hey Nate, this part's definitely gonna break, and just given advice on how to fix it. So I've just been around randomly, to look at the robot. I see it in the lab all the time. Um, I look at what you've done, and think of how you could do it better, but also just think of how much it's evolved since I started. Um, as critical as it sounds like I'm being, yeah. So I just help uh, a tiny bit.
Okay. How do you think FIRST affects or fits into the STEAM community?
I think it really, like I said, learning all of the soft skills, I think it really makes engineering students who are more willing to go past the bare minimum, which sounds kind of bad, but a lot of people are so used to just finishing the assignment, getting the grade done. In my intro to engineering class, which is one of the classes I'm taking here at UCF, all engineering students have to take it. We're doing this project where it's basically inspired by a FTC game. You have a little robot and you have to program it and build a thing to drop a duck off into a pond. And one of the things is you can always tell who the robotics kids were, who the first kids were, because they're more dedicated. They'll do a more interesting thing. Not only do they know how to work with the robot, but they're more ambitious with what they're making. And so I think that's one of the really important things that first does is it pushes students to actually go past the limits, go past the minimums set by an assignment or something. So it helps teach engineers to push the bounds of what's possible, which I think is really important.
That's cool. So, what hardware platforms did you work with during your time on the robotics team, and how proficient were you in using them?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? I didn't hear that so much.
Okay, so what hardware platforms did you work on while being on the robotics team, and how proficient were you in using them?
So I used CAD. Most of what I did was CAD and using like the machines that actually make the parts. So the laser cutters, the laser cutter at UCF and all of the 3D printers there. And I like to think I've gotten really, really good at it. I know CAD like the back of my hand. I know Onshape super, super well. So I work in the innovation lab now at UCF. And so my job is to run the machines, the same machines that I used in high school to make the robot. That's now my job. And I also help a lot of the people from other freshmen to the seniors doing their senior design project. I help them out with their designs and show them some of the extra tools in Onshape that are less obvious. So I like to think I've gotten very, very good at a lot of those hardware things, a lot of those design tools.
Really good. How you can like use them now that you've like graduated and stuff. And so what ways did you like contribute to the team while part of Haggerty Robotics?
Yeah, so like I said, hardware was my thing. You guys all know that. So of course I built several parts of the robot. I collaborated with people. I think one of the big accomplishments I did during my time at Haggerty Robotics was growing the FLL program. I started my freshman year, I started mentoring the FLL teams. That was also the first year that we had FLL challenge teams. And I saw that through all the way to my senior year as the teams grew. And I think that was one of my most important contributions. I put a lot of time with the other FLL mentors into that program and trying to teach the students as best as we could and give them the proper resources. So yeah, I think that was one of my biggest accomplishments. You know, I also think I had some leadership role in the team. I know I taught a couple of you guys CAD. I know Jorge spent a lot of time showing Jorge how to do stuff. I don't know if he's there. Is Jorge there? Damn, sad. I love Jorge.
I could tell you taught him.
What'd you say?
I could tell you taught him.
Yeah, yeah. Can you? Yeah. Anyway, Jorge's great. Yeah. So I taught him. I know I showed a couple of you guys some CAD things, even the software people like Samantha. I know I showed you a couple CAD things. So I guess that was a contribution as well.
Okay, so I know you kind of talked about this already, but maybe you can like elaborate further. How do you see your robotics experience translating into potential career opportunities or contributing to your professional goals?
So of course, like I mentioned before, the technical skills that I learned have been super important. I know so much more about CAD and about hardware and about how to make something and how to like problem solve, figure out what's wrong with the thing I made and then fix it. I know so much more than the average engineering student that didn't do robotics in high school or anything like that. And so basically, I actually have my project right here, but I was able to make a project that was more advanced than I would have if I hadn't done robotics. And so just seeing how those skills have helped me in my first semester of college, I also know that will translate into the industry very well. One thing about engineering is as much math as you learn, you're still going to have to learn stuff on the job, and being able to adapt quickly and continue to learn new techniques and new design strategies is really important. And I think that's something that Haggerty Robotics emphasizes and does really well. Our robots always look different year to year. We don't stick to one thing. And so knowing how to evolve and learn constantly is super critical. Of course, I also learned some of the people skills and the teamwork skills, being able to collaborate on a project, understanding what it's like to work in a team and trust the people you work with is super important. It can't be understated how important it is to know and trust the people you work with, and be able to, like I said before, sacrifice maybe what you want for what's best for the team. One thing that was really significant is how close I became with some of my team members, some of you guys there, as well as Ratam, one of the other first alumni who graduated my year. You sort of learn to communicate almost without talking. We just know how each other work. And so obviously in the industry, that's a really important thing that people look for, is how you can learn to adapt to situations and work in a group effectively.
Finally, do you have any advice for our team this year?
Do I have any advice? Just keep doing what you're doing. I've paid a little bit of attention to what you guys have been doing this year. I've been talking to Mr. Harper, of course. And so I know your very first competition, you guys did really, really well. You got first place, or what was it, a scrimmage? And then I know at this recent one, even though you had a couple hardware problems, that you were able to bring it back. And I know you guys use your resources well, like I've been saying. So I don't really have any advice other than to trust each other and keep pushing the boundaries of what you can do, of what you know how to do. Never take the easy way out. Always do the weird thing. That's what I always did.
All time. Any other questions? No? No? I have a question. So I see that you're wearing like a Mercedes hat. Did that play any like role in like deciding any like hardware decisions, like materials, how to build a robot in the past?
Yeah, so a good eye catching the Mercedes hat. I love F1. I started liking F1 during my time at Haggerty Robotics and my senior year. You guys definitely remember we did an Ackerman drive, so a car style robot, and it wasn't necessarily, we didn't make it because I like F1, but I spent a lot of extra time doing research about F1 and how those cars work and applying that into our robot, and sort of that motivation, that extra desire to learn, and actually building the robot allowed me to in turn learn more about automotive engineering, which is a very specific subfield, and it has a lot of nuance. And so building that Ackerman drive, and knowing how the linkages work to make the wheels turn at slightly different angles so that it can follow a proper circle. There's things most people wouldn't think about. But having that interest in F1 and seeing how they have reverse Ackerman and all this stuff, and doing all that research, and then working on a robot like that, it really helped build my knowledge. I'm actually looking at doing a study abroad thing. It may be in my sophomore or junior year. That's automotive engineering, and it's in like Budapest. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So it's more of that stuff, just taking exactly what I learned and what I was motivated to do in FIRST Robotics, and translating it into a future career, or at least future education. And you also mentioned materials. Something we started using was carbon fiber. I even have some carbon fiber poles in the background there. Are they? They're there. So that's one thing we started using carbon fiber a lot more. I know you guys also have carbon fiber on your robot right now, and so our junior year we made that mold, or my junior year, we made that mold for the side of the robot to hold up the arm, using the exact same techniques that they use to make the parts for F1 cars, obviously on a slightly smaller scale. But it's the same exact technique with carbon fiber cloth and putting the epoxy on and vacuum sealing it and all that. And so I was able to learn that through FTC. And you know, it might have been a coincidence, but I feel like nowadays I see a little bit more carbon fiber on the robots. No, maybe Uplift had a lot of carbon fiber on the robot last year. I wonder where they got that idea. I mean, maybe not, but you know, I like to think that at least.
And, anyone else? All right. Well, thank you for letting us interview you today. Right.
Of course. Good talking to you guys. Good seeing you guys again. It's weird to be on the other side of it, like I said, but yeah, it's good talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.